What do you do when the world tells you you're not enough? When people laugh at your dreams, call you unrealistic, and doubt your every move? Most people break. But you're not here to break, you're here to rise. Today I'll show you how to take their doubt, their criticism, their rejection, and turn it into unstoppable fuel that will make you UNFRGTILE. This is about proving them wrong and proving yourself right. Every single one of us has faced it. That moment when someone looked at you, laughed, and said, "You can't do it." Maybe they said you weren't smart enough. Maybe they said you didn't have the resources, the connections, the education, the talent. Or maybe they didn't even have to say it out loud. You just felt it in the way they dismissed you, ignored you, doubted you. And in that moment, you had a choice that every successful person in history has faced. Do you believe their voice? Or do you turn that doubt into the fuel that sets your soul on fire? Because let's get real, the world is full of doubters. People who will tell you that your dreams are too big, that your vision is unrealistic, that your goals are impossible. And most of the time, those doubters aren't trying to hurt you. They're just projecting their own limitations, their own failures, their own fears onto you. But here's the truth, their doubt is a gift. Their doubt is the secret weapon most people overlook. Because doubt has energy, and that energy can either crush you or it can ignite you. Think about it. Some of the most successful athletes, entrepreneurs, leaders, people who changed history, they weren't the most talented, they weren't the most connected, they weren't even the most educated. What they had was hunger, what they had was fire, and you know what sparked that fire? Doubt, rejection, people telling them they weren't enough. Michael Jordan didn't make his high school varsity basketball team. They told him he wasn't good enough. Do you think he let that define him? No. He turned it into an obsession. He turned it into fuel. Oprah Winfrey was told she wasn't fit for television. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for not being creative enough. Imagine that! The very thing that made him a legend was the same thing someone else used as a reason to reject him. So, let me ask you, how many times have you let someone else's doubt dictate your destiny? How many times have you shrunk your dream because someone else couldn't see it? You see, the problem isn't their doubt. The problem is that you started to believe it. But what if instead, every time someone said you couldn't, you heard it as, "Watch me"? What if every time they laughed, you said to yourself, "Thank you"? That's fuel for the fire. What if, instead of letting doubt crush you, you learned to feed on it like oxygen, like rocket fuel, propelling you further, higher, faster than anyone thought possible? Because here's the thing, your mind, your body, your spirit, they're not limited by what's possible. They're limited by what you believe is possible. And if you can take doubt and flip it, if you can transform that rejection into determination, suddenly the very thing that was meant to stop you becomes the very reason you win. Think about your own life right now. Think about the last time someone told you, "You can't do that." How did it feel? It stung, right? Maybe it made you question yourself. Maybe it made you hesitate. But I want you to feel that moment again right now. Bring it back into your body. Feel that fire in your chest. That's energy. That's the same energy the greatest champions in the world used to rise above the noise. Every doubt you've ever faced, every single one, is a reminder that you're playing bigger than most people even dream. People don't doubt the ordinary. People don't doubt the safe, the predictable, the mediocre. No one doubts the person who plays small. They only doubt the person who dares to play big. So when you hear doubt, don't shrink. Don't second guess yourself. Smile. Because doubt is proof that you're on the right track. It's proof that you're daring to do something they can't even imagine. And here's what most people get wrong. They think proving someone wrong happens in that moment, with words, with arguments, with clapping back. No, that's ego. That's temporary. The real proof comes when you go silent, when you get to work, when you let your results speak so loudly that the world can't ignore you anymore. But to get there, you need that fuel. You need that spark. You need to embrace every rejection, every criticism, every laugh, and every eye roll as a gift. Because life is not about avoiding doubt, it's about using it. There will always be people who say you can't. But here's the secret. They're not really saying you can't, they're saying they couldn't. They're speaking from their own limitations, their own story, their own fear. And if you're not careful, you'll take on their story as your own. You'll let their voice become your inner voice. But what if instead you took back control? What if, instead of hearing their words as rejection, you heard them as an invitation to rise, to fight, to dig deeper than ever before? Listen, I'm not here to tell you it's going to be easy. It's not. But it's simple. When someone doubts you, you have a choice. You can let it define you, or you can let it refine you. You can let it weaken you, or you can let it strengthen you. Doubt is fuel. Rejection is rocket fuel. Criticism is pure energy, but only if you choose to use it. Only if you decide that their doubt is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of your breakthrough. And that's the decision you've got to make right now, not tomorrow, not next week, now. Because the truth is, the people who doubt you aren't going anywhere. They'll always be there, but so will you. And the only question is, are you going to let their doubt define your life? Or are you going to let it ignite your destiny? There is a voice inside of you right now. You know the one I'm talking about. The voice that whispers when you're about to take a risk. The voice that says, what if you fail? What if you embarrass yourself? What if you're not good enough? And if you've ever felt that voice holding you back, you're not alone. Because every single human being on this planet has that voice. But here's the difference. The people who achieve greatness, the people who rise above, the people who break through and transform their lives, they don't listen to that voice. They recognize it, they face it, but then they choose a stronger voice. The voice of power, the voice of courage, the voice that says, I am more than this fear, I am more than this doubt, I am unstoppable. The truth is, the real enemy isn't the world outside. It's not your doubters, your critics, your circumstances. The real enemy is the voice inside of you that tries to convince you to stay small. That inner critic, that inner doubter, that constant stream of what ifs. And if you let it, that voice will chain you to a life of mediocrity. But let me tell you something. You were not born to live small. You were not born to live in fear. You were not born to shrink into the expectations of others. You were born with power. You were born with the ability to rise, to fight, to create, to break through barriers that other people couldn't even dream of touching. And the key to unlocking that power isn't out there. It's in here. It's already inside of you, waiting to be unleashed. Think about it. How many times have you underestimated yourself? How many times have you looked back on something you achieved and thought, wow, I didn't think I could do that? That's proof. Proof that you are stronger, smarter, and more resilient than your mind tries to convince you. Proof that the limits you think are real are nothing more than illusions created by fear. And if you're willing to silence that inner critic and amplify the inner champion, and if you're willing to shift your focus from fear to faith, from doubt to determination, then you will unlock a level of energy, of power, of potential that you didn't even know existed. Because here's the truth, your life changes the moment you decide to change your standards for yourself. When you stop settling for average, when you stop believing the lies of that inner critic, when you start demanding more of yourself than anyone else ever could, that's when you begin to unleash your true power. Think of the people you admire most. They weren't born fearless. They weren't born confident. They weren't born certain. They created it. They trained it. They conditioned their mind to serve them instead of sabotaging them. And you can do the same. But it starts with making a decision to stop giving power to the wrong voice. There's a saying, where focus goes, energy flows. If you focus on your fears, your failures, your limitations, you will live in them. But if you focus on your strength, your resilience, your hunger, your vision, you will grow into them. And the moment you shift that focus, the moment you say, enough, I refuse to let fear control my destiny, that's the moment you step into your power. Listen to me carefully. You are not your fear. You are not your doubt. You are not your circumstances. You are the force that chooses what those things mean. And the meaning you attach to those experiences will determine whether they chain you down or whether they set you free. Maybe right now you feel tired. Maybe you've been knocked down more times than you can count. Maybe life has tested you, betrayed you, hurt you in ways that no one else will ever understand. But you're still here. That alone means there is a power inside you that refuses to quit. And that power is stronger than any setback, stronger than any failure, stronger than any critic, stronger than any fear. What would happen if, instead of listening to that inner critic, you chose to unleash that power fully? What would happen if you stopped asking, what if I fail, and started asking, what if I succeed? What if I fly? What if I'm capable of more than I ever imagined? Because the truth is, you are capable of more. But you will never experience it if you keep living by the voice of fear. Fear was designed to protect you from danger, but most of the time it's protecting you from growth. Fear says, stay safe. Power says, step up. Fear says, don't try. Power says, give everything. Fear says, what if you fail? Power says, what if you win? And here's the secret. Fear doesn't go away. Doubt doesn't disappear. But when you unleash your inner power, when you align your mind, your body, and your spirit towards something greater, fear becomes small. It's still there, but it no longer controls you. Instead, you use it. You transform it into focus, into drive, into energy that propels you forward. Think of a rocket. Before it launches, there's resistance. Gravity pulls it down. The atmosphere pushes against it, but the rocket doesn't stop. It doesn't say, well, gravity's too strong, so I guess I'll quit. No, it unleashes so much power that the resistance becomes irrelevant. That's you. That's your life. Your fears, your doubts, your obstacles, they are gravity. And your inner power is the rocket fuel that makes gravity irrelevant. But the rocket doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't wait until the conditions are perfect. It launches anyway, and so must you. Stop waiting for the fear to disappear. Stop waiting for the perfect time. Stop waiting for someone else to believe in you. You've got to believe in yourself now with everything you've got. Because of that belief, that decision, that unleashing of power, that's what transforms everything. So hear me right now. The enemy is not outside. The enemy is not the critic. The enemy is not the doubter. The enemy is not the person who walked away, who rejected you, who told you it couldn't be done. The enemy is the voice inside that believes them. And the moment you take back control of that voice, the moment you say, no more, I am not my fear, I am my power, I am my potential, I am my decision, that's the moment you begin to live the life you were destined for. That power, it's not out there, it's not something you find, it's not something someone else gives you, it's already in you, it always has been, you just need to unleash it. Every person alive has excuses. Every person has reasons why they can't. Excuses are cheap, excuses are everywhere. But let me tell you something, excuses will never change your life. Excuses will never pay your bills. Excuses will never give you the body you want, the career you want, the freedom you want, the love you want. Excuses steal your dreams. And the only antidote to excuses is standards. Because the truth is, you don't get in life what you want. You don't even get what you think you deserve. You get what you are willing to tolerate. You get what your standards demand. When you raise your standards, you change everything. Think about it. The difference between the people who live extraordinary lives and the people who settle for average isn't that the successful ones had fewer challenges. They didn't. Most of the time, they had more. The difference is that they refused to make excuses, they set a higher standard for themselves, and they refused to lower it for anyone. So let me ask you right now, what are your standards? Not what you hope for, not what you dream about, but what you absolutely will not compromise on. Because your life will rise or fall to the level of your standards. If your standard is to just get by, guess what? You'll just get by. If your standard is to always find an excuse, you'll always find one. But if your standard is excellence, if your standard is discipline, if your standard is to demand more from yourself than anyone else could ever demand, then you will find a way. Excuses are easy. You can always find one. I'm too tired. I don't have the money. It's not the right time. No one supports me. The world is filled with reasons not to act, but the people who achieve greatness, the people who inspire others, the people who change lives, they don't wait for the world to hand them the perfect conditions. They create their own conditions by raising their standards. Maybe you grew up in an environment where excuses were normal. Maybe everyone around you had a story about why they couldn't, why they didn't, why they gave up. But listen to me, that does not have to be your story. You get to choose your standard. You get to decide what you will and will not accept for your life. And here's the truth. Once you raise your standards, the excuses that used to control you start to lose their power. The same way a rocket breaks free from gravity, your new standards break you free from excuses. But it requires a decision, a deep, unshakable decision that says, this is no longer acceptable in my life. This is not who I am. I demand more. Look at the greatest athletes, the greatest leaders, the greatest creators of all time. Do you think they succeeded because they had the best circumstances? No, they succeeded because they refused to accept anything less than the best from themselves. Kobe Bryant didn't skip practice because he was tired. Serena Williams didn't make excuses about her schedule. Elon Musk didn't say, well, I can't build rockets because I don't have enough money. They raised their standards and demanded that reality rise to meet them. But most people live by their excuses instead of their standards. Most people let their feelings decide their future. I don't feel like it today, so I'll put it off. I'm uncomfortable, so I'll stop. That's how you stay stuck. That's how you live a life of regret. Because feelings come and go, but standards remain, and if your standards are higher than your excuses, you win. Let's be clear, this isn't about perfection. This is about commitment. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be consistent. You don't have to know everything, but you do have to refuse excuses. You don't have to control the world, but you do have to control your own standards. When you raise your standards, something powerful happens. Your brain starts to look for ways to meet those standards. If your standard is to be healthy, your mind starts looking for better choices. If your standard is to be successful, your mind starts finding solutions instead of reasons to quit. If your standard is to be unstoppable, your mind starts building resilience every single time you face adversity. And guess what? Once you set those standards, people around you will notice. Some will be inspired, some will be threatened. Some will try to pull you back down to their level because your higher standards make them uncomfortable. But that's not your problem. Your job is not to make excuses for them. Your job is to keep your standards where they belong high. Standards are about identity, excuses are about comfort. Every time you make an excuse, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who accepts less. But every time you live by a higher standard, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who demands more. And identity is everything, because once you truly believe deep down that you are a person who never makes excuses, who always finds a way, who always holds the line on their standards, you will live that way without even thinking. And the more you live it, the more momentum you build. You start to see yourself differently. You start to act differently. You start to attract different opportunities, different people, and different results. And suddenly, the life you thought was impossible becomes inevitable because your standards make it so. But here's the catch: you can't just raise your standards once and then relax. Life will constantly test you. It will constantly tempt you to lower your standards, to take the easy way out, to make excuses. That's when you have to stand firm. That's when you have to remember who you are, what you demand, what you've committed to. That's when you remind yourself, excuses are cheap, but my standards are priceless. The truth is, every excuse you make becomes a brick in the wall that separates you from your potential. But every standard you raise becomes a ladder that takes you closer to it. And the choice is yours, every day, every hour, every moment. Are you building walls with your excuses, or are you building ladders with your standards? Talk is cheap. Words don't build legacies. Intentions don't change lives. Vision boards, daydreams, wishes, they're worthless without one thing: action. Because at the end of the day, victory is not handed to you. Victory is not promised. Victory is not owed. Victory is earned. And the only currency that pays for victory is relentless, consistent, massive action. You can read every book, watch every video, go to every seminar. You can plan, you can visualize, you can hope. But until you move, until you take that first step in, until you push when it hurts, until you get up when you've been knocked down, nothing changes. The world doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care about your dreams. It doesn't care about your potential. The world responds to action. Think about it. The greatest ideas in history would mean nothing if they stayed inside someone's head. The Wright brothers had an idea of human flight, but what changed the world was building the plane, crashing it, fixing it, trying again. Thomas Edison had an idea for light, but what made him unforgettable was trying 10,000 times until he got it right. Action turns thought into reality. Action turns dreams into achievements. Action is the bridge between who you are and who you're destined to be. But here's the truth: most people don't act. Most people talk about what they're gonna do. And most people wait for the perfect time, the perfect circumstances, the perfect level of confidence. And while they wait, their life passes them by. The cemetery is full of dreams that never saw the light of day because the person who carried them was too afraid to act. So let me ask you, how long will you keep waiting? How many more excuses will you collect? How many more tomorrows will you waste before you realize that action is the only thing that matters? You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need all the answers. You don't need permission. What you need is to move, to do something, to take one step today, then another tomorrow, then another the day after that, because momentum is built by movement, not by thought. When you take action, something shifts inside you. Your confidence grows. Your energy expands. You start to see results, even small ones, and those results fuel your hunger for more. But when you hesitate, when you delay, when you stay still, fear multiplies, doubt grows, and the dream begins to die. The difference between those who succeed and those who fail is not talent. It's not luck. It's not even intelligence. It's the willingness to take more action than anyone else is willing to take. It's the decision to keep moving forward when everyone else quits. It's the relentless, almost obsessive commitment to do whatever it takes, again and again and again, until victory is the only possible outcome. Think of the greatest champions. They didn't win because they were guaranteed to. They won because they refused to. They showed up earlier. They stayed later. They trained harder. They pushed themselves past breaking points, and then they pushed again. That's action. That's victory. And listen to me, action is not glamorous. Action is not always exciting. Action is often repetitive, painful, boring, and thankless. It means doing the work no one sees, the work no one applauds, the work you don't always want to do. But that's the price of victory. Because victory is not created in the spotlight, it's created in the shadows, in the grind, in the hours when no one is watching. You don't prove yourself in your head, you prove yourself in your habits. You prove yourself in the choices you make every single day. Do you hit the snooze button, or do you get up? Do you follow through on the promise you made to yourself, or do you break it the moment it gets uncomfortable? Do you do what you said you would long after the mood you set it in has left you? That is where victory is decided. And here's the hard truth: victory doesn't belong to the person who says they want it most. It belongs to the person who's willing to work for it the longest. It belongs to the person who's willing to suffer for it, sacrifice for it, bleed for it if necessary. It belongs to the person who doesn't just dream, but does. So many people want the reward, but they don't want the responsibility. They want the prize, but they don't want the process. They want the victory, but they don't want the work, and life doesn't work that way. Life rewards the worker. Life rewards the doer. Life rewards the one who keeps moving when everyone else is standing still. And don't misunderstand, action doesn't mean reckless movement. Action means purposeful, consistent, aligned effort. It means working toward the vision you set, even when it feels impossible. It means stacking small wins day after day until they turn into unstoppable momentum. Because small actions, compounded over time, create massive victories. Look back at your own life. The times you made progress, the times you grew, the times you changed. It wasn't because you thought about it. It was because you acted on it. You signed up. You showed up. You did the work. And even if you stumbled, even if you failed, you gained something more valuable than success. You gained strength, clarity, resilience. That is what action gives you. And the beautiful thing about action is this: you don't have to wait to take it. You don't need permission. You don't need someone to tell you you're ready. You can act right now, in this moment. The second you decide, the second you commit, the second you move, that's the second your life begins to change. So when you feel stuck, when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel like you can't, don't wait, don't think, don't overanalyze. Take one action, any action, because motion creates emotion. Movement creates momentum, and momentum creates victory. Victory through action is not about talent, not about luck, not about being chosen. It's about deciding over and over again to keep moving, to keep showing up, to keep taking steps, no matter how small, until the path reveals itself, until the mountain is climbed, until the victory is yours. Because in the end, the world doesn't remember what you said you were going to do. It doesn't remember the excuses you made. It doesn't remember the fears you carried. The world remembers what you built, what you achieved, what you created, what you conquered. And all of it comes down to the actions you take. Every doubt you faced was fuel. Every rejection you endured was fire. Every criticism that cut you was energy. And you've learned to take it, to transform it, to use it, not as chains, but as wings. You've learned that the real battle was never with the voices out there, but with the voice inside. The critic within, the fear within, the hesitation within. And when you silenced that voice, when you unleashed your true power, you discovered who you really are. You stopped lowering your standards. You stopped living by excuses. You stopped letting life happen to you, and you began demanding more of yourself than anyone else ever could. And in that moment, you rose. But all of it comes down to this action. Because the world doesn't care what you say, what you hope for, what you promise. The world responds to what you do. Every step you take, every hour you put in, every drop of sweat, every sacrifice, every relentless move forward, that is the proof. That is the victory. That is how you prove them wrong. And when you rise, when you achieve what they said you couldn't, when you build what they said was impossible, when you live the life they said was out of reach, you won't just silence the doubters. You'll inspire them. You'll show them what's possible. You'll show them that the limits they thought were real were only illusions. So remember this: you don't just carry a dream, you carry a responsibility to yourself, to your future, to the life you were born to live. Do not waste it. Do not delay it. Do not let it die inside you. Stand up, step forward, move with power, move with purpose, move with everything you've got, because this is your time. This is your moment. The only thing left to do is go out there and PRO. TSEM, the WR own.